At the age of 46, I have a past in the military, a period when I was often away from home, particularly during my son's infancy. A revelation struck me unexpectedly one day. The child I believed to be mine was actually my older brother's. The truth hit me hard, causing profound heartache and bewilderment. Following this revelation, my relationship with my wife deteriorated, leading to our eventual divorce. Simultaneously, my resentment towards my brother for his actions led me to sever ties with him completely, and years passed in silence. Subsequently, my former spouse tragically passed away, yet this event failed to alter my feelings. My parents optimistically believed her absence would resolve our family conflicts, attributing them primarily to her. They saw her death as an opportunity for reconciliation. However, I remained distant from my brother, unable to forgive or forget. During this period, my nephew, my brother's biological son, reached out to me as he matured into adolescence. Despite our increasing interactions, the unresolved tension loomed large. Those around him propagated the misconception that my rift with his father stemmed from a mere business disagreement. My parents even threatened to disown me if I revealed the truth, that his mother was once my wife. They declared their unwavering support for him, their grandson and nephew, even at my expense. Eventually, my nephew, probably feeling like he wanted to heal the family, tried to get me to meet with my brother to talk things over. My brother was actually open to the idea. Maybe he wanted to make amends, but I just couldn't bring myself to face him after everything that had happened. I had to put my foot down and tell my nephew clearly that I didn't want to be pressured into a reunion. Thankfully, he understood where I was coming from and respected my wishes, so he stopped pushing for us to meet. This family situation has really spiraled. When my nephew, who is now 21, decided to get married, he sent me an invitation to the wedding. Because I'm still not talking to his dad, my brother, I chose to decline the invite and sent it back immediately. My nephew didn't take this well. He called me up wanting to know why I wouldn't come. I explained that since his dad would be there, I wouldn't be able to attend because of our no-contact situation. However, my nephew wouldn't take no for an answer. He came over and really let me have it. He accused me of holding on to unnecessary bitterness and resentment towards his dad, who he claimed was sorry about the past. He thought I was just holding a grudge over some old business dispute. He even gave me an ultimatum: either make peace with his dad, or he wouldn't want to see me anymore. Feeling cornered, I finally told him the truth, that the feud wasn't about business. His dad had an affair with my then-wife while I was serving in the military. Understandably, my nephew was shocked and refused to believe me at first, thinking I was lying. It was only after I showed him enough evidence that he started to see the truth. He was furious, not just with me, but now with his dad and grandparents too. After our confrontation, he left in a rush. Later on, I learned from my parents that he had canceled the wedding invitations for my side of the family, put his own wedding on hold, and after a huge blow-up, had cut off contact with his dad. My dad has gotten very ill since these revelations, and the rest of my family is blaming me. They're saying I've ruined everyone's lives by letting my hate and resentment towards my brother come out. They wished I had kept quiet, and now they're saying I have to face the consequences of driving away what seems to be one of the last members of the younger generation in our family. It's a tough spot to be in, feeling like your honesty has torn the family apart even more, but also knowing that these secrets were weighing on everyone involved. Now, for the comments. Not the idiot. Your nephew is an adult, fully capable of making his own choices. You were pressed for an answer. Your options were to no longer have your nephew in your life, meet up with your brother, or tell him the truth. Your family threatening to disown you for telling your nephew the truth is super toxic. I can understand not telling him when he was a child, and even to a certain extent as a teen, but once your nephew was an adult, he deserved to know. Not only that, but Opie has been painted as the argumentative idiot in favor of the cheating brother and ex-holy cow. How do you do that to a man who both his wife and his sibling betrayed? For 20 years, he's held his tongue despite his whole family, parents included, behaving like this. Not the idiot. Your family is delusional if they thought that they could keep it a secret forever. If they had not tried to keep it secret and your nephew had grown up knowing the truth, he might not have blown up the way he did. He blew up because he realized that his family had lied to him his entire life. You tried not to say anything, but your nephew was like a dog with a bone, and he would not let up pressuring Opie for an answer. Apparently, he couldn't handle this information if he canceled his wedding and disappeared. Opie, you are not the idiot, but in a way, your parents are right, and that you should deal with the consequences of your actions. Reach out to your nephew and tell him that you love him and you never blamed him for what his parents did, and that you never told him before because you were told that you would never be allowed to see him again if you didn't explain that already. Importantly, and that you will always be there for him if he ever needs you. Story 2. I'm a 23-year-old girl, and my boyfriend is the same age as me. We've been together for just a little over a year now. Ever since I met him, I've noticed that he's not the type to talk much about how he feels about different things. He's pretty quiet about his emotions, except when it comes to our relationship, then he opens up a bit more. I'm the complete opposite. I talk about my feelings all the time, whether it's something small like what happened during my day or something big like plans for our future or worries. What I really appreciate is that he's always been a great listener, no matter how much I go on about things. This past weekend, something interesting happened while I was over at his place. He went to take a shower, and I was just chilling on the sofa. That's when I noticed he left his phone there, and it wasn't locked. I know it wasn't right, but curiosity got the best of me, and I ended up looking through his phone. I clicked into his notes app, where I found out he's been using it almost like a personal journal. He started writing in it about 2 years ago, which was right after his previous girlfriend broke up with him. I knew he had a relationship before me, but I didn't really know the details or how deeply it affected him. Reading his notes was like stepping into a hidden part of his world. A lot of the entries were like letters to his ex, filled with questions and thoughts about his feelings. He wrote about struggling to get over her and trying to convince himself that it was okay to let go and move on. It was pretty emotional, but what really got to me was that he continued writing in this diary-like not app even after we started dating. There were entries about issues he had with his parents and other family members, his thoughts on us when we first met, and even ongoing feelings and experiences in our relationship. It was a lot to take. Again, I understand that some people find it helpful to write things down like this to sort out their thoughts and feelings, but I felt a little betrayed and sad. He never talked to me about any of these deep feelings, and discovering all this was like finding out there's a whole other side to him that I never knew existed. It made me wonder what else he hasn't shared with me and why he felt he couldn't talk to me about these things. I really feel like he could talk to me about anything because as his girlfriend, I want to be there for him to support him through tough times. As I read his notes, especially the parts about his struggles with his ex and his family, I couldn't help but cry because it was all so sad. I just wished he had shared these feelings with me. When my boyfriend came out of the shower and saw me crying, he was immediately concerned. He asked what was wrong, and through my tears, I asked him, "Why haven't you ever talked to me about any of this stuff?" He looked confused at first and asked what I meant. So, I admitted to him that I had read through his notes. Right away, his face turned angry, and he demanded, "Why did you think you had the right to go through my personal things?" I was still crying, and I tried to explain how I felt, saying, "If you were more open with me, maybe I wouldn't have felt the need to read them." But that didn't calm things down. Instead, he became even angrier and told me that I should leave. I felt awful at that moment, like I had deeply betrayed his trust. But part of me also wished he would share more with me about his feelings and his life. We did end up talking a bit more about it. I tried to explain that he doesn't need to keep everything bottled up, that he could share thoughts with me instead of just writing them down. But it seemed to upset him even more, and he insisted I should go. Honestly, I left feeling terrible. I know I made a big mistake by reading his personal diary. It's something I shouldn't have done, and I regret it deeply because I know it hurt him. At the same time, part of me still wishes he would open up more. I believe that if we could share more openly, maybe we wouldn't have ended up in such a painful situation. It's hard because I care about him so much, and I just want to be closer to him, but I also need to respect his privacy. So, am I the idiot for feeling betrayed after reading my boyfriend's notes? Now, for the comments. You know you are the idiot, a big, giant, selfish one. And you're upset because he did something healthy and wrote down his feelings, especially before meeting you. He needs to get your butt out of his life. Snooping on the phone is bad enough. by reading his diary and then behaving as if he is the bad guy because he never talked to her about it. Wow, this woman knows no boundaries. Oh, you are such an idiot. It makes me speechless. You would also search the diary of your child and read it without any remorse. Maybe even scan some pages and put them on your Facebook. I hope this man must never see you again. For feeling betrayed. Yikes, you are the idiot for violating his privacy big time. So, you're upset he engaged in a time-honored and healthy way of expressing his feelings and emotions, and you just couldn't help yourself and decided to snoop. His next entry should be, "Why did I ever trust you?" And, "I'm glad we broke up." I was having trouble wrapping my head around that too. Like, you read his diary without permission, and then had the nerve to start crying and feeling betrayed. And then, instead of rightfully being ashamed, you confront him about his betrayal. She betrayed her boyfriend so much. I really hope his next entry is exactly what you said. Story 3. I'm a 22-year-old guy, and I share an apartment with another guy who is also 22. We're both juggling part-time college studies while living together, and things between us have generally been pretty good. The apartment lease is in my name alone, and my roommate has already decided that he won't be staying in the apartment once we're done with college. On top of my studies, I work the night shift at a job that requires me to be there from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. 3 days a week. My roommate and I both have our significant others over. Sometimes his girlfriend frequently stays the night, which hasn't really been an issue for me because my boyfriend also stays over sometimes when he visits. However, I started noticing some odd things every time I came home from my night shifts. My bed didn't look the way I left it. It was messy and clearly looked like someone had been sleeping in it. Even stranger, I started finding clothes in my bed that definitely weren't mine or my boyfriend's. Confronting people isn't my strong suit, but I was sure something was up because my boyfriend always tells me in advance when he's coming to stay. To get to the bottom of this, I decided to buy a hidden camera. I set it up in my bedroom in a spot where it couldn't easily be seen. I wanted to figure out what was happening in my room while I was away at work. Not long after installing the camera, during one of my shifts, I received a notification from the camera's app on my phone indicating that there was movement in my bedroom. I hesitated but decided to check the live feed. To my shock, I saw my roommate and his girlfriend using my bed. I felt a mix of emotions from betrayal to embarrassment, and I quickly turned off the video. The following morning, after I had calmed down a bit, my boyfriend came over. I showed him the video because I needed someone to talk to about what I had seen. He was as surprised and upset as I was, and without waiting, he sent the video to my roommate. My roommate quickly replied, saying he wanted to talk about it when he got home. When we finally sat down to talk, he admitted that he and his girlfriend had been using my bed because, according to him, it was more comfortable than his own. That evening, things escalated when his girlfriend came over and confronted me angrily. She was upset that I had installed a camera in the apartment. She felt it was an invasion of her privacy. But I explained that my intention was to understand what was happening in my personal space, not to invade hers. We had a heated discussion about respect, privacy, and boundaries, which needed to be addressed given the circumstances. Am I the idiot for putting a camera in my bedroom? Now for the comments. Not the idiot. You have a camera in your space. If they are being caught on your camera in your space where they should not be, then that's on them. Who cares if your bed is more comfortable? It is not theirs. They are disgusting. Not the idiot. If he's not on the lease, give him a 30-day vacate letter. I would not want to live with anyone that violates my space like that. I would also double down and put more cameras in the apartment. And your roommate's excuse is completely invalid. And his girlfriend is only upset at the camera you placed in your bedroom because they got caught. Not the idiot for putting up a camera, but illegal to send your boyfriend the video if they did what I think you're implying. It's one thing to show him briefly, but if your roommate and his girlfriend wanted to take action against you for distributing a video of them doing you know what without their consent, they could. So just be careful. Even if you only send it to him, it's a matter of in the court of law. It's distribution, whether he wants it or not. It's all his private space, so he can do whatever they want in it. LP again, it's your private space. So what are they doing entering your room without permission? It would help if you lock your door before leaving and made it clear that what they were doing was inappropriate. They are in the wrong here, not you. Story 4. My family includes me, my lovely wife, and our energetic little son. We happen to live really close to my wife's family that includes her mom and dad, her sister's husband, and their two kids, who are two lively daughters. The youngest daughter is about the same age as our son, which is super convenient. So my wife and her sister thought it would be a great idea to start setting up playdates between our son and their younger daughter to help them play and grow together. This seemed like a good plan at first, but I had some reservations. Here's the thing. My sister-in-law and her husband have a pretty different way of handling their parenting duties compared to us. For example, they're really into using TV shows to distract their kids during meals and rely heavily on their helpers to manage the messes the kids make. We have a helper at our house too, but we prefer to use her help differently. We encourage her to teach our son to clean up his own toys and clear his dishes after eating. We believe it's important for him to learn responsibility from a young age. Meanwhile, observing their eldest daughter, who often behaves quite spoiled, always reinforces my belief in our parenting approach. One afternoon during one of these playdates while I was at home, something quite telling happened. After playing for a while, the kids were moving from one set of toys to another. My son, being used to our house rules, began to put away the toys he had been playing with. However, his cousin had different ideas. She had finished with her toys but left them scattered all over the floor and was moving on to a new set of toys. She even told my son not to bother cleaning up and just come join her with the new toys. I felt this was a moment to reinforce our house rules, so I stepped in. I told both of them that in our home, we clean up one set of toys before we start playing with another. The response from my sister-in-law's daughter was quite defiant. She shrugged and mentioned that their helper would take care of it, showing no interest in cleaning up herself. I wanted to make sure the rules were clear, so I told her that if that was her attitude, then we couldn't continue playtime as usual. She ignored my words and tried to play with the next set of toys anyway, which prompted me to take a firmer stance. I removed the new toys from her reach and guided her out of the playroom, explaining that playtime was on pause. I was calm but firm, and I explained that if she wanted to continue playing, she needed to first apologize for not following the rules and then go back and tidy up the toys she had left out. After the cousin was sent out of the playroom, she really didn't take it well. She started crying pretty loudly and made quite a scene. I ended up sending her back to her own house to calm down. A few hours later, my sister-in-law came over, pretty upset, and wanted to know why I had been so strict with her daughter. She felt I was being too harsh and argued that just this once, I could have let our helper clean up after the kids. I explained that it was important for us to maintain consistent rules in our home, especially since our son is at an age where he picks up habits quickly. I stood firm on not bending the rules even this one time because it sets a precedent. My sister-in-law then suggested that maybe next time she could send her own helper along with her daughter to clean up if it was such a big issue. I also found out that during previous playdates, unbeknownst to me, our helper had just cleaned up after the kids without making them do it themselves. Hearing this, I felt even more strongly about setting clear boundaries. I told my sister-in-law that it would be best if her daughter didn't come over for playdates anymore if these issues were going to continue. She accused me of meddling in how they raise their kids. I responded by saying that while I don't have a say in how they parent at their house, the rules are different in my home. It's all about respect for the house rules when they are here. My wife, though, is torn about the whole situation. She agrees that it's crucial for us to stick to our principles, but she's also worried that this might cause unnecessary tension between our families over something that might seem small to others. She's not sure if standing firm on this issue is worth possibly straining the family relationship. Am I the idiot for putting my foot down? Now for the comments. Not the idiot. Your wife is on the fence because that's her sister, so you're the only one seeing clearly at this point. You're doing your niece a favor by teaching her that different households have different rules. Unfortunately, her mother isn't doing her any favors by letting her get away with her behavior. Not the idiot, and so much the point that you're teaching your kid the rules. Letting the brat next door break the rules, especially suspending the rules because the brat doesn't like them, is teaching your kid all the wrong lessons. I'm not even going to start on the idea of letting your in-law staff come over to clean up after the brat. That's just wild. OP, your niece will be in for a rude awakening when she goes to school and there is no helper to clean up after her, and her teacher forces her to clean up after herself. Your son, however, understands the importance of cleaning up after himself and that should absolutely continue. Your sister-in-law is doing a huge disservice to her kids by not teaching them basic life skills. I'm assuming you are a little wealthy because you have helpers. So, in that case, do everything you possibly can to make sure they're not spoiled. I swear, you're not wrong. It will help your son later in life more than he could thank you. Story 4. My daughter, who just turned 18 this year, jumped into the workforce full-time back in June after deciding that college wasn't for her. She landed a job that pays $11.40 an hour, and after all is said and done, she brings home a little over $1,900 every 2 weeks. We thought it was fair to ask her to contribute a bit to the household since she's making her own money now. So we set it up for her to pay $150 each month towards her car insurance and another $150 for her phone bill, making her total monthly contribution to the household $200. However, we've hit a snag. Since September rolled around, she hasn't given us any money. Every time we ask, there's a new story. She forgot to clock in at work a few times, her pay wasn't processed correctly, or even that her bank account was mysteriously emptied. It's always something new with her, which means the end result is always the same. No money handed over to us. But I think I've cracked the case on where her money is actually going. The other day, I had to go into her room. She had borrowed one of my favorite outfits for a party and never returned it. While I was looking around, I couldn't help but notice a huge collection of Bratz dolls and related gear that definitely wasn't there before. We're talking multiple playsets, a bunch of those makeover heads, loads of dolls, and even bigger items like cars, a party bus, and a plane. And it didn't stop there. She had new Bratz-themed room decor too. To top it all off, this morning, 3 big boxes arrived at our doorstep, all addressed to her. One of them was even covered in Bratz stickers. It was pretty hard to miss. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind that she has a hobby or something she loves collecting. But it's tough to swallow that she's spending all her cash on these dolls while telling us she can't meet her basic responsibilities at home. This has led to some serious talks between my husband and me. He's pretty upset about the whole situation and thinks it's time to start charging her rent, $300 a month, up from the $100 she's supposed to pay for her other expenses. This might help her prioritize her spending a bit better. And there's another issue. Ever since she turned 18, she acts like she doesn't have to follow any house rules. She hardly ever helps out with chores, and it's a constant battle to get her to do anything around here. Plus, her attitude has taken a turn for the worse. She's often talking back, swearing, and sometimes even screaming at us. Honestly, all of this has been really draining. Her behavior and the constant lying have been wearing me down, and I'm not sure how much more of this I can handle. We need to find a way to address all these issues, but it's tough knowing the best approach when emotions run high and the stakes feel even higher. Now for the comments. Not the idiot. I wouldn't support my child through college or any career path such as a union apprenticeship, but I will never allow my child to sit at home for free working a dead-end job and not getting anywhere in life. In my opinion, if you don't charge your rent, then you're the idiot. She requires maturation and exposure to reality. Firstly, what is the reason for an 18-year-old to purchase Bratz dolls? Secondly, it's not unreasonable to expect her to contribute to household expenses. She's an adult with employment, but fails to assist in any other aspect of household upkeep. If she chooses not to pay, she can seek alternative living arrangements and confront real-world challenges. While not unreasonable, resorting to rent imposition isn't the solution. Prioritize instilling in her the responsibility of handling the $200 obligation. If she isn't meeting that commitment presently, adding rent won't prompt compliance. Your hospitality in allowing her residence is already commendable. Sit down with her and communicate unequivocally that future missed payments will result in eviction. It's your duty to impart such responsibility before she faces independent living. Additionally, she must contribute to household chores. Residing in a communal space entails sharing the workload. Refrain from coddling her by doing her laundry or tidying her room. She must learn accountability at 18, rather than indulging in doll play. Your stance is justified and reasonable. Eventually, she will need to manage her own car insurance, phone bills, and rent payments punctually. However, the excessive focus on her doll collection in the comments is perplexing. An 18-year-old's interest in Bratz dolls is akin to adults enjoying Pokemon, Lego, or video games. It's simply a hobby.